Aboru, Aboye Abosise, Eku Oshe, Ifa Egbe, Oshun Ori, Eshodar, and Olokun. I am Babalao Latona Ifa Bileke. OJ Bimi Isan Yemi. That's for my Egungun initiation. And Jagun Egbe Bimi for my Egbe initiation. So I wanted to kind of like discuss Ori initiation and Ori. So I have Omawo, right? Okay, so let's back up. Iwaju Ejiogbe, Iwajuo, Lopam BT Racy, Dearfun Arumila, Ifasa Wolo, Si Ife Soto, Ebony Wani Kawase, Inje, Kaso Tito, Kaso Dodo, Agbato, So Tito, Nimulembe. It is the honest and the truthful who the deities support, right? Who the elders and the ancestors support. So it tells us that in Ejiogbe. It tells us some other things in Ejiogbe as well, right? It tells us the relationship of Ori. So it's important, right, that this Odu Ifa says in Ejiogbe that we must stick to the truth. It is the truthful that the deity support, which takes us into another Ejiogbe verse, right, talking about Ori. So it is a very difficult thing to like understand. There's so much information, there's so much access, there's so many priests and priestesses and people in the culture trying to help others, but are they really helping people? Are they giving the best information they can for clarity? So when we start talking about Ifa and Ori and Orisha, it's important that we start with the truth, right? So Ejiogbe again says the albino who grows gray hair all over his body. The cripple who never stretched out his hands to bring the Orisha calabash from the attic. Ifa's declaration to Emi, the most important Orisha. Lo, Emi is the most important. Orisha, Emi is the most important. As long as Emi is not taken, nothing is lost. This Odu Ifa tells us that, one, that our Ori, or our essence, is an Orisha. We know that it is the only Orisha that when it stays with us, we have long life. It tells us again in the Odu Okanran Adisa. It tells us that it is the wild palm tree that makes the chimpanzee's hands hard and rough. Ifa's declaration to Ombe, who would be perpetuating the other Ori of people from place to place. It is the Ori that the owl perpetuates that shall last long. Its destiny shall live long. So we have all this kind of like support and clarification on what Ori is and how important it is. So then we go to Iwori Wofun, Iwori on the right, and Ofun on the left. And there's several Odu that tell us about Ori and how we're supposed to maintain it. There's also Iwori Meji. There's so much information available about Ori and about destiny. So where one may be part of another, it's only part of another. So with our Ori complex and Oreo Day and Ori Apere and all these different things, how are we able to separate our character from the things that we're supposed to use our character for. The tests that are set up, right, for our character in order for us to move forward and progress. Iwori Wofun tells us, right, Iwori on the left and Ofun on the right. So anytime that you greet a Babalawo, you say Aboru, Aboye, Abosise, or Ianifa. The response is Ogbo Ato, Asuri Iwori Wofun. It is Iwori Wofun that we draw energy from, or ashe from, when giving that greeting. So you'll hear people say Alafia. What lets people know that I'm a Babalawo, or that I'm fully initiated, or that my Omoawo are initiated and under a Babalawo, is giving the greeting. Aboru, Aboye, Abosise. Ogbo Ato, Asuri Iwori Wofun. So what does this say? This says that Aboru is made an appropriate sacrifice be made. Aboye is be made in an appropriate manner. Abosise is made have the appropriate outcome. What is the correct outcome? From any exchange with the priest or priestess that's fully initiated into Ifa, it should be long life and good health. Ogbo Ato. How do we know this? Because of the Holy Odu Iwori Wofun. This Odu Ifa tells us mainly about transformation. It tells us also how to take care of our Ori. That it must be washed, it must be perpetuated, it must be transformed. So, how do we start to do that in Ifa? How do we start to do that in Orisha tradition? I can't tell you how to do that with Orisha tradition because I don't know. I can tell you only what Ifa says and how we must go about it. So, one of the things that Ifa placed in our view is that we must not place anything in front of our destiny. That means we don't place Oshun in front of our destiny. It means that we don't place Ogun in front of our destiny. It means that we don't place Aj in the front of our destiny. It means that we don't place Ile Ori in the front of our destiny. The only thing that is important for us to be rightly guided is to initiate to Ifa. It is the language by which Orisha speak. So earlier I talked about Ejiogbe, right? And Ejiogbe says that Ori is an Orisha. How do Orisha speak in Ifa? What Orisha were initiated into Ifa? The Orisha, all Orisha except Osain was initiated to Ifa. That means Ori was initiated into Ifa. What is the way that the Orisha speak? Through Ifa. Right? By the system, by the binary, by Opwele, by Ikim, even with some by Cowrie. But it's a system by which Orisha speak that we can categorize and give a prescription for the things that the person and the Ori may face in this life. So, there are certain things that you don't get initiated into. Aj, because we receive Aj, and Ori. You don't initiate into those, you receive those icons. I'm going to say it again. You don't initiate into those energies, you receive those icons. So, you can initiate into Olokun, yes, but you don't initiate into Aj. That's one. You have Ori, but you don't initiate into it. There is no yearly Odu, right? There's not that I've seen or that my family has expressed to me that you would give your Ori an animal, a foreleg. When you see the Odu Ifa and it is expressed certain things about what one should feed their Ori, if you don't know, you don't know. It's not at your level. But what I will share with you is that anytime the Odu Ifa speak about feeding one's Ori an animal, a foreleg, it's talking about initiation. It's saying that this animal needs to be sacrificed for one's destiny. When we go through Itefa, when we go through Isefa, we make sure that those requirements are met. In the Holy Odu Iwori Wofun, Ifa says that Orunmila declares that it is a matter of transformation. I respond that we need to right the wrongs. When the yam transforms, it becomes pounded yam. When the maize transforms, it becomes corn paste. When the corn paste transforms, it becomes pap. These were Ifa's declarations to Orunmila. When going to mend the life of Olokun, he was advised to offer up, but he complied. Before long, not too far, joined us in the midst of all rere. This Odu Ifa talks about initiation. It is through initiation that one receives this transformation. That one is taken to the grove, right? One is taken to the grove. One is presented or not presented, depending on what sex you are, to certain energies in order to facilitate the transformation. So, you can receive different things. You can receive any icon, right, without being initiated. Almost any. There are certain icons that you will receive after your initiation. We must be clear. We must use the most accurate information. So, when we go to Ifa consultation, right? What energies speak? When we go to Ifa consultation, right, and we use Opele, we use Ikin, what energies speak? There are multiple energies that speak. Right? So, the Odu Ifa cast, it will tell you about past, present, and future condition of the Ori. It'll tell you about dreams. It'll tell you about where your physical body is going. It'll tell you about the blessings and the obstacles that you can look forward to and avoid in the future. It is one's body that takes one's Ori through space and time. Spaceship, if you will. It is one's body, right, the companion to the Ori that takes the Ori from place to place. That maneuvers Ori, right, and into and out of certain situations. It is one's Ori that moves the car through the body. How do we let our Ori speak? How does one's Ori speak? It speaks through Ifa. Just like all the other Orisha and Orunmila speak through Ifa. It is the casting of the Ifa, right? With Ikin, with Opele, that gives voice to not only Ori, but to Ogun, Shango, Iyamoja, right? Iyami, Obatala, Iku, Arun, Ija, it is only through casting the Ifa. So it is not that we can tell when the Ori will come and when it will leave. These are the things that we don't know. Right? It's true that we speak to Ori with Obiabata, Ashe, directly. But even when we speak with Obiabata, it tells us, right, the condition of our Ori. It tells us that we need to have a strong character. It tells us that we need to exercise patience. It tells us that we need to be at peace. It tells us that our Ori is giving us victory over adversary. It tells us many different things and leads us in the future, in the very short term, where we're going. The thing is that we have to understand that we don't initiate into Iliori. There is no annual festival in a sense, right, for Iliori. You do that when you do your Odunfa, right? You do these annual celebrations, these birthdays, when you have your Ifa festival. You have to have Isefa or Itefa, preferably Itefa. But still, with Isefa, you cast every year on your anniversary. This helps you to move along a certain course or curriculum. This is the point of Ifa. So how would one's Ori or prosperity speak for them without casting the Ifa? Without having Ifa? So, let me ask this question. If one's destiny tells one where to be in 9 months, if Ifa says you will travel, right, but you must offer an ebo to go in blessing and return with your blessing, what is the state of your character at the time of travel? Can you say today? Can you say today? When the blessing arrives, when the opportunity arrives, what is the condition of my character? If I would tell us, it will give us prohibitions. Do not fight with anyone. Do not wear red and black. Do not lie. Do not conspire. Do not do these different things, right? Leading up to the blessing. It is a steady progression of situations that help us to develop character. It tells us in Ofun Meji, F-I-O-D. It tells us that Obatala is the king who molds human beings. It tells us that Orunmila is the one who molds human destiny. It tells us that Ori is the one who supports and assists human beings. It tells us that Olodumare is the one in charge of molding human character. Aboye Boshishe. It tells us these things. So how can we place anything, right, in front of it? It tells us in Iwori Wofun, when it was Orunmila that was going to help Olokun mend his life. It is Ifa that will help Olokun, right? We all know what Olokun is. The king is Ifa, right? So how can you give someone something that is initiated into Ifa, that speaks through Ifa in a sense, right? Because if Ori is an Orisha, Ori is expressed through Ifa. There's no initiation into it. This the thing that came from heaven to earth. You went through that, right? So in Obeyanu, it tells us, right? Afuwape, we know about Olodumare and Obatala creating the Ori and the Egbe. The Egbe stays in Orun, Egbeara, while the Ori, you go through Alagbala, you go through the realm of the ancestors to Ajala Moonpins, and you pick your destiny. That there's this go-between between Olodumare and us, you, me, where all the Orisha and Arumale witness, or that, I'm sorry, Ifa witnesses, where all the Orisha and Arumale are bowed, right? There's this go-between between your Ori and Olodumare, Akunle-yan and Akunle-ba, things that are received and things that are given. They're very two different things. What is it that I want to do when I go from heaven to earth? Olodumare says, you can do those things. You can be a Babalao, you can be an Iyanifa, you can be a husband, you can be a wife, right? You can be a child, you can be a parent. But Olodumare says, okay, well, while you're doing that, I need you to be a priest. I need you to have good character. I need you to not lie to people. I need you to not mislead people. Well, if I do those things, I want to be abundant. If I do those things, I want to have long life. There's this bargaining or go-between between us and Olodumare. But we lose focus. We lose sight of that when we come from heaven to earth. That's a part of it. So how do we return to the plan? How do we move into alignment with the thing that we agreed to do before coming from heaven to earth? By initiating to Ifa. If you can't do Itefa, if you can't go to Ibodu, then Isefa is the next thing. So, that's a whole nother issue, but women don't birth Ikin, right? Because they don't see Odu. It's really balanced if you look at it. Women birth babies, male and female. Right? So Babalawos birth them into alignment with their destiny. This is the only thing that matters, folks. Initiated to Ifa. Then one can do these other things. One can receive Aj. One can receive Ile Ori. One can receive certain shrines, right? It's not necessary that you may have to initiate into a bunch of things. Only is that you become connected with that energy. But how can we initiate into something that is the point from us coming from heaven to earth? Something that we don't feed forelegs to directly. Something that we offer Adimu, like the verse tells us, right? It talks about the yam. So this verse is telling us that we feed Adimu to our Ori. I responded it that we need to right the wrongs. When the yam transforms, it becomes pounded yam. Adimu. When the corn... when the maize transforms, it becomes corn paste. When the corn paste transforms, it becomes pap. Adimu. It's telling us. This is how we start to change the life of our Creator. Ori. Eleda. Okboato, Asuri, Iwori Wofun, Raisa. We have to understand it. there's so much information, right? But it's different levels, different devils, I guess. If you don't know, right, I guess at the time it's not meant for you to know. If you can't read the Odu and see how to do things correctly, right, then we should rely on our elders. That's what I do. It takes it out of my hands. Baba, is this the correct way to do this? Baba, how do I do that? There's some pretty challenging things, right, that we must do in order to bring ourselves into alignment. Don't let anyone or anything stand in the way of your destiny. It's like putting your hand over your mouth and not being able to speak by placing things in front of your destiny. Isefa will give you your destiny a year at a time. It'll put you on a path for Itefa. It teaches you how to perpetuate these energies, how to ask questions and get a direct response. It's more forgiving, right, than placing things on your head. So in this way, you're able to learn the rituals. With Isefa, you're able to learn the rituals. You're able to learn how to do Opele. You're able to learn how to do Aboru. You are able to learn how to do a Kunlebo. You are able to learn how to consecrate Iwori, how to give Iwori. You're able to learn how to do certain things, right? But you can't do that if you don't have Ifa. So I asked my Omawo, right? Who's the elder? The one that has Iwori or the one that has Isefa? Who's the elder? Who's the elder? The one that has Isefa is the elder because the Orisha and Oromale speak through the Ikin. Whereas the one with Iwori only has their Ori, their character aspects of their Ori to deal with. It's not going to tell you where you're going. It's not going to tell you what blessings that you have to look forward to in the long term. It doesn't do that. Because if you haven't done the things to develop or cultivate the blessings, Iwori is not going to tell you that. Think about what I'm saying. If you haven't cast the Ifa off of that bow, right? Suppose you got Ejiogbe. In Ejiogbe, it tells us how to put off death. It says Ejiogbe gave it to Oyekumeji. Oyekumeji gave it to Iwori Meji. Iwori Meji gave it to Odi Meji. Odi Meji gave it to Irosun Meji. Irosun Meji gave it to Owanra Meji. Owanra Meji gave it to Aboru Meji. Aboru Meji gave it to Okanra Meji. Okanra Meji gave it to Ogunda Meji. Ogunda Meji gave it to Osa Meji. Osa Meji gave it to Ika Meji. Ika Meji gave it to Oturapon Meji. Oturapon Meji gave it to Ose Meji. I'm sorry, to Otura Meji. Otura Meji gave it to Irete Meji. Irete Meji gave it to Ose Meji. Ose Meji gave it to Epa Odu. Gave it to Ofun Meji. Ofun Meji gave it to Oshe Torah. Ejiogbe tells us how to put off death in this way. But you can't cast Ejiogbe when you don't have the Ifa. You can't just rely on Iwori to do that. You can't. You can't rely on IJ to do that. It tells us again in Ogbealara. When the day dawned, I met Arumala in the 16th room. He had on a gown full of lights and a dress full of bloodstains. He was snoring heavily. They told him that a delegate from his disciple had arrived. Arumala inquired what the delegate had brought. They responded he brought 2 rats swift and running, 2 fish graceful in swimming, 2 birds swift in flight, and 2 goats with big livers. Arumala said that is not enough to wake him up. It tells us that we have to make sacrifice. That is these little things we do, right? But it tells us in another Odu that it is Ifa that saves our life, that saves our destiny. It's not Orisha. It is through Ifa that the Ori can save itself. That it speaks. So, I implore you, I urge you, do your research. Find someone knowledgeable. Find someone with you know, I don't know. Someone who knows. It's unfortunate that we put things, you know, even with Orisha. You know, even with Orisha, we should not place an Orisha in front of our destiny because, let's say it like this. Anybody watching, how many Orumale are there on the left-hand side? How many Orumale are there on the left-hand side? Ashe, 201. How many on the right-hand side? Ashe, remove the 0. You come up with 21. This is what you receive when you receive your hand of Ifa, 21 Iking, to represent these energies. So again, I ask the question, which one is more? Which one is the elder when it comes to having Ifa and not? Having Ifa and having Orisha. 1 Orisha, 2 Orisha, 3 Orisha. What is different, right? What is different between having Ile Ori and Isefa? It's a big difference. So, are you talking about Babalawo Ifa Yimi? Are you talking about Ifa or are you talking about Ile Ori? Or Ori itself? We have to be clear. It is important that we are completely clear. Ori supports each one of us from birth to death. It's clear. Ashe. Ashe. That's different than the icon, right? So Babalawo Ifayemi, how does Ori express itself? How do we find out about our destiny? I'll wait. Ashe Ita, casting the Odu Ifa, Ashe. Ashe Star Child, Itefa, Ashe. We have to cast the Ifa. We have to initiate into Ifa. We have to initiate into Ifa. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So even if we look at it like this, we got people that initiate into Orisha before they initiate into Ifa. Right? So we know that there are certain ways to get certain information. right? With Itefa, in order to get life information, right, of a particular energy or destiny, right, Ori. We get the life information through Itefa, what this Ori's purpose and principle, function in life is to be. What challenges that this Ori, the body, the person, will face during this life. We cast Ifa for that. We go to the grove and we find out this life energy. We find out this life energy, right? So then, if you don't have Itefa, is there a way for you to find out the life energy? No. You can't do it in Ifa and Orisha because the rules don't say that you can. The rules actually are to the contrary. This is why we go through Itefa, right? This is why we go through Ibodu to get these life readings. So, the one who is not initiated into Ifa is not the same as the one fully initiated into Ifa, right? Because they don't receive the same reading. We can go through the same process, right? This is what a regular reading is done with Opwele, right? And you can do that for someone that is not initiated into Ifa, someone that has Isefa, right? And somebody that has Itefa. You can even initiate life energy into the person once they have been through Itefa. So you can do other initiations. Adawomi will open the way for these initiations, right? And these life energies, right? If the person has went through Itefa. But what if you only went through Isefa? If you went through Isefa, having the Ikin, 16, 19, 21, gives you the capability and ability to have yearly readings. If you don't have Isefa or Itefa, you can never receive a yearly reading in Ifa. We have to be clear. So again, how would it be that you can receive a yearly reading with Ile Ori, but you don't have Isefa? That means you haven't met the requirement to receive yearly readings. So I can cast Ifa and do yearly readings for my Ile, for my temple, for my business, for your business, because I've had those prerequisites met. I've had those requirements met. So for my business, for my Ile, for my temple, right, I can cast yearly readings. Why? Because I've met the requirement. I've met the prerequisite. I have Itefa. So I can do the same for my Omwawo who have Isefa and Itefa. So if my Omwawo have Isefa, I can do yearly readings on other aspects of their life. They can initiate to Egungun and receive yearly readings. They can initiate Egbe and receive yearly readings. They can initiate Oshun and receive yearly readings. They can initiate Obatala and receive yearly readings. They can say, hey, Baba, I want to cast Ifa about my business. You got Isefa? Yep, let's do a yearly reading. You can do that. But what if they don't have Isefa? They haven't made the requirement. They haven't met the bar or standard in order to receive a yearly reading. So how would I be able to do it for IJ when that's something that you receive? Or be able to do it for Ori, Ile Ori, which is something that you receive. It's only a representation of your Ori. There's different things you can use the Ile Ori for we won't discuss. But we just have to be clear. We have to give people the right information, right? So there's levels to it, right? So one should receive Ifa, right? Because Ifa is more lenient, right? If you make mistakes. Your Ifa knows where you're at in your walk, right? You know, Ifa knows that you got your Ifa sitting on the shelf and you miss O'Shea. It knows. It'll tell you, hey, don't miss O'Shea. It'll tell you. Your Ifa will tell you to, slow down. The readings, it knows. So, Ifa is more forgiving. This is why we receive it first. The obstacles, the missteps, the blessings, right? The E-ray that you receive with your hand of Ifa, right, favors you. It favors you. So if you don't give the right thing, if you don't talk to it when you should, it's forgiving. But when we start doing these different things like today is also Ori and Aj. If you give the wrong thing to your Ori, you could face challenges. So we use Ifa 1 as a way of learning, a buffer, if you will, to learn how to communicate with these energies. So there's nuances and subtleties that differ from Ifa to Ori to Ogun to Shango. But once you learn the core thing, right? Once you learn the required thing, how to communicate with Ifa, the other things kind of like fall into place. Remember, I said that all the Orisha were initiated into Ifa, except Osain. Let's be sure, right, that we're on the right path. That we're not allowing others to place things in our way. You can see and feel the change. It's certain things that you're going to only receive in Ifa. That you're not going to initiate to. Olori got icons and stuff like that I don't have. But I don't have to have them now because she does. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Someone can create an icon for you without you initiating to it. Sometimes that will settle, right, the energy in your life. It'll help you become used to the energy in your life. So, Ashe, check us out. Iyadudu World Academy on Patreon. Iyadudu Temple and Botanica, 2028 Woodland Drive, Charlotte, North Carolina. If I have to leave one thing with you today, don't let anyone place anything in front of your destiny. Ashe.